eyes, look me in the face, tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.
Zipper test and sit and reach. Zipper test. The purpose of zipper test is to test the flexibility of our shoulder gilder. Shoulder gilder includes the bones that connect to the arms, like clavicle and scapula. To do this test, we need a ruler. The person being tested needs to stand straight. To test the right shoulder, you need to raise your right arm, bend your elbow, and reach down across your back as far as possible. And then, extend your left arm down and behind your back, bend your elbow up across your back, and try to reach your fingers over those of your right hand as if to pull a zipper or scratch between the shoulder blades. Your partner will observe whether the fingers touch or overlap each other and measure it. If not, measure the gap between the middle fingers of both hands. Record the distance in centimeter. To test the left shoulder, raise your left arm up, bend your elbow, and reach down across your back as far as possible. Extend your right arm down and behind your back. Bend your elbow up across your back and try to reach your fingers over those of your left hand as if to pull a zipper or scratch between the shoulder blades. And again, your partner will observe if the fingers touch or overlap each other and measure it. If not, measure the gap between the middle fingers of both hands. Record the distance in centimeter. This is the scoring for zipper test.
Is the way your foot rolls to the side and flattens out when you're running or walking just after your foot hits the ground. It's quite normal and it's just your foot's way of taking the impact. So if your foot rolls and flattens out, you're an overpronator. If your foot doesn't roll at all, you're an underpronator. And somewhere in the middle, well, that's just a neutral pronation. So why does it matter? Pronation can increase the chances of foot, knee, ankle and hip injury, which could take you out of the race. Thankfully, running shoes are designed to compensate for the different types of pronation, so protect your foot from injury. The wet test is a quick and simple exercise to check your pronation, to help you choose the right running shoe for you. You'll need a bucket, a small amount of water, and a surface that will show the print your wet foot makes. We're using the slate tile, so I'm going to test for my pronation pattern. Dip your foot in the water, give it a shake to take off the excess water, and place your foot down solidly on the surface. So I can see about half my foot arch, which makes mine the most common foot type with normal pronation. Contrary to popular belief, pronation is actually a good thing. When the arch of your foot rolls inwards or pronates, it absorbs the shock, taking strain off your knee, ankle, etc. So, I need a shoe that offers moderate arch support. Lightweight runners with a normal pronation like mine may not need any support or could even choose a performance training shoe. If you can see very little of your foot arch, that makes you an underpronator. This could mean that there's an increased strain on your joints, so you'll need to pick a shoe that offers neutral cushioning to encourage pronation. If you see almost your complete foot in the print, you're probably an overpronator. Your foot is rolling inwards a lot on impact, which could also cause injury. You'll need a stability shoe or a shoe with firmer support that discourages that movement.
Let's discuss a few simple ways that you can assess your health risk at home using nothing more than a tape measure. So for our purposes today, it's actually recommended that you utilize a spring-loaded tape measure like this one you see here. Now, if you don't have a spring-loaded tape measure at home, you can use one of these if you have that available. The first measurement we're going to talk about is body mass index, also known as BMI. BMI describes the relationship between body weight and height, and since it cannot determine actual body composition, research has shown that this measurement can be somewhat limited in terms of its accuracy. For example, individuals who are extremely muscular would score high on a BMI chart, inaccurately categorizing those individuals as being overweight or obese. Studies indicate that compared to BMI, waist circumference is more accurate in regards to predicting cardiovascular disease risk. Waist circumference can be measured at the midpoint between the lowest rib and the iliac crest. Unsure what the iliac crest is? It essentially acts as the main hip bone. It can be felt by putting your hip at the lowest rib bones and simply sliding it down the abdomen until you reach the top of the pelvic region. Research has shown that waist circumference is effective in identifying cardiovascular disease and diabetes risk. Here's a table that shows the criteria for waist circumference in adults. For accuracy, it's important that the measurement is taken at the end of expiration, at the point when the diaphragm is in its neutral position. It's also important to keep the tape measure snug, but not too tight that it presses into the subcutaneous layers. Another measurement that can be used, and research has shown to be the superior clinical measurement for predicting cardiovascular disease mortality, is the waist-to-hip ratio. For this assessment, the hip measurement should be taken at the greatest circumference of the buttocks. You'll then find the waist-to-hip ratio by taking the waist measurement you completed earlier and divide it by the hip measurement. This table shows the waist-to-hip ratio norms. For the waist circumference and the waist-to-hip ratio, for accuracy, you want to ensure that you're completing the measurement at the same landmark each time. It's also helpful to complete multiple measurements at the same site, but to ensure that you allow at least 20 to 30 seconds between repeat measurements to allow the skin and subcutaneous tissue to return to its normal state.
Lean against a wall and slide down into a squat with your knees at a 90-degree angle and your thighs parallel to the floor. Keep your back flat against the wall and your hands and arms away from your legs. Maintain this position by using the pressure from your back against the wall. Hold for a set time period before letting your legs relax.